Someone who had a colorful and interesting history in her own right is Zsa Zsa Gabor. Sadly, Hollywood said goodbye to the legendary actress this week. She was 99 years old when she died this past Sunday from a heart attack. Much has been written about the prolific Hungarian-born actress's life as a socialite, including her 9 marriages and her more than 60 appearances on film and on TV shows. Many say Gabor was the forerunner for today's reality show stars, but little has been said about the actress's role as a vocal opponent of the Communist Party. That is, until now. For more on the life and legacy of Zsa Zsa Gabor, we want to welcome in John Gizzi. He's our Newsmax chief political columnist and a White House correspondent. As always, thanks for joining us, John. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, Miranda. Nice to see you, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Now, you have a new article on our parent site, Newsmax.com, where you discuss Zsa Zsa Gabor's role in opposing communism. In the article, you write Gabor was a vocal supporter of the anti-communist freedom fighters who were brutally killed by Russian tanks back in 1956. Tell us more about Gabor's opposition to communism, because you really don't hear about it.
No, you don't, and it's unfortunate that things that would be considered less substantive and more frivolous are given the attention of the media. On a serious note, Zsa Zsa Gabor was someone who, along with her mother and 2 sisters, came to the United States before World War II, when Hungary was under fascist control. After World War II, when it fell to communism, she became a vocal opponent of the communist regime. In 1956, as you point out, when the Hungarian uprising was brutally put down, she went on radio and called on the U.S. to save the reform regime of Prime Minister Nagy. Along with her were other Hungarians who had done well in the United States, the comedian Ernie Kovacs, Mickey Hargitay, the strongman, father of Makisha Hargitay of NYPD fame, and of course Count Dracula himself, Bela Lugosi. It was in vain. The uprising was crushed. Prime Minister Nagy was killed. Zsa Zsa Gabor continued to help the refugees who fled communist Hungary. It was said that the United States put $20 million to help them resettle. $500,000, privately and quietly, came from the private account of Zsa Zsa Gabor, and it helped the refugees. In later years, she participated in marches in front of the Soviet embassy, carried a picket sign, and spoke to Hungarian-American audiences all about her love of freedom. She wanted to celebrate her 100th birthday in a free Hungary and didn't make it, but her legacy lives on. Hungary is free. Her dream came true.
Wow. Would you describe her as a role model?
Well, I would say this. If you leave aside the personal life and you leave aside the controversy that surrounded her and that most of us know, and focus just on someone who loved her country and was a true patriot, yes, I would call her a role model. Remember something. In the 1950s, she was speaking against communism and her country being a Soviet puppet nation, and she lived to see it become free 33 years later when communism in Europe fell. That is someone who was on the winning side and didn't care how long it took. Yes, Zsa Zsa Gabor was a role model, and a good one for patriotic people everywhere.
When you were researching this piece, what surprised you the most to learn about Zsa Zsa?
I think the very fact that she cared so much about her homeland, because she had then become almost a citizen of the world. She had romances with people from the British actor George Sanders to the Dominican playboy Porfirio Rubirosa. She made movies with Mario Lanza and actors from all over the world. But in the end, she remained what she was born to be, a daughter of Hungary, and she lived up to that. I think finding out that Zsa Zsa Gabor had a very serious side to her and such a love of country was a big surprise to me. That and she put her money where her proverbial mouth was, helping refugees escape communism in 1956.
Did she ever comment about the refugee crisis going on in Aleppo?
No, by that time, Zsa Gabor had failed. Remember, in the last decade, she'd had a series of strokes, she had had a leg amputated, and all of her communications were done through her husband and friends. It is said that her only daughter, Francesca Hilton, who died a few years ago, that Zsa never learned of her death. So I don't think she was in a position to comment on this tragic tragedy. I think if she had lived, she might have had something to say about it.
I'm sure she would. I'm sure she would. Yeah, it was a very, very interesting piece. It was very fascinating to learn that about her. John Gizzi, as always, thanks for joining us here on Newsmax Prime. And you should really check out John Gizzi's article. You'll find it on newsmax.com. John, thanks.
Thank you, Miranda.